Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Yacht Crew Vlogs right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Rhea. I am your host, and today I'm really pleased to welcome Jaime Iredale from the Royal Wellness Group. How are you, Jaime?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
So, you've got a really interesting company here, and I want to get into that in a minute. The company is called the Royal Wellness Group, and it's all about the most luxurious treatments and, right from the tip of your head to the bottom of your toes and everything inside as well. But we will talk about that in a minute. I just want to get to know you a little bit. Where were you born and raised? And tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Sure. Well, I'm Canadian. I was born in Calgary, and then shortly after my birth, moved to Montreal, and that's where I spent most of my younger years. And then before getting into junior high and high school, I moved back to Calgary and then lived there through university. And then last year of university, me and some friends, we exited a company. It wasn't a big deal. It was a little advertising agency, but it gave me some freedom, especially considering it was the same month that I graduated. And then I just booked a one-way trip to Asia. I was kind of looking to broaden my horizons as far as what this experience on Earth could offer outside of Canada. Yeah.
So when did you start the Royal Wellness Group? Were you in, what part of Asia were you in at that time?
I started, well, no, it didn't start in Asia. The concept, the idea for it started in Asia. So I spent my first 2 years, well, I went backpacking to Asia. I fell in love, quite frankly. I ended up on this island called Koh Phangan, which is just beside Koh Samui, which most people are aware of. And it's very much like your Ibiza, Tulum, Goa, Ubud, Bali kind of feel. Very bohemian, very I don't want to use the word hippie, but very much in tune with nature, in tune with self, living a more conscious lifestyle. So it was a very inspiring realm to step into, and energetically, this island is mostly composed of rose quartz and other kind of highly conductive materials in the ground, such as gold and things like this. So on an energetic level, it just kind of welcomes you. And so I decided to move here, and this is actually where I am now. And so the island showed me a whole new way of life that really I was not aware of in Canada. And this was a way of life of self-expression, of celebration, of individuality. There's no income brackets here. There's no social diversification. Everybody's interacting with everybody on a very humane level, and it really inspired me. So after having started a few of my own businesses here, I had a movie cinema and some vegan restaurants and a yoga studio. I then started to do some consulting work for a number of resorts on the island, helping them transition to become, a five-star luxury platform, but into an all-inclusive healing center. And so this is a big trend that was taking over, in Southeast Asia over the last 5-10 years. This island did not have a luxury platform that would compete with some of the establishments on Koh Samui and on the mainland, such as Shiva Som and Hua Hin, which is very well known. So we went about that mission to create a compelling offering on this island, something that was Tantra friendly as well, and just more welcoming to what most people were welcoming to. And so we went about that mission. Throughout that course, I created a very compelling offering of different retreats, mind, body, soul, very much like what Royal Wellness is offering. Built a very comprehensive faculty of practitioners from around the Orient. It wasn't so international like Royal Wellness is. It was more in our backyard. But coincidentally, most of these people are hanging out in these backyards around here. So it was quite an easy play. And we created this all-inclusive platform. Now, I moved to Spain shortly after that, and I figured once I became aware of what Palma was as an island, Majorca, having one of the largest recreational yacht ports in the world, it kind of just hit me that there might be an opportunity to bridge this kind of esoteric realm, which is kind of where I'm living, with the mainstream, and deliver these extremely valuable services to people who might not even know they exist, who probably need them just as much as you and I do, quite frankly, So yeah, this was the mission. And I figured that if we can help influential people become better versions of themselves. Not saying they're broken or anything like that, but simply teach them better habits, sleeping, eating, performance habits, all these things. They become more optimized versions of themselves, just simply an upgrade so they can live longer, perform better at work, be better lovers for their partners, you know, X, Y, Z. So that's kind of the mission. And hopefully through that, you know, things are just run better for the world at large. Yeah.
So tell me where you're located. Are you located in specific areas, or is it something that can be taken anywhere in the world?
It can be taken anywhere in the world, given logistics are, you know, in our favor. If this is on a random iceberg somewhere in Antarctica because it's a you know, an explorer yacht, it might be a little bit difficult. But for the most part, given kind of where boats are normally in the industry, the Caribbean, the Mediterranean, we're able to deliver our services, certainly.
And what are your services exactly? Like, is it, you know, yoga? Is it, you know, when you say wellness as a whole, unless you do the research on what you do, can you tell us what exactly it is that you are able to offer?
For sure, yeah, and I appreciate the question because, as you say, when people say the word wellness industry in this industry, it's oftentimes associated to basic spa type services, shiatsu or which have you. Also, you know, your chief stew might be a yoga practitioner with a basic 200 or 500 hour yoga certification behind her, but it doesn't go deeper than that. And then on top of it, you might have a chef who's also now beginning to explore vegan cuisine, vegetarian options, maybe macrobiotic, but it's not his passion. You know, he's coming from Italy and France. And so this is just kind of a request that he's having to deal with, perhaps. Whereas our team is completely passionate about this. They've dedicated their entire team or their entire lives to studying and practicing holistic arts, spiritually based practices, et cetera, et cetera. Most of them have studied in places like India and Thailand at the feet of, you know, well-known and unknown gurus, more or less. And the, you know, the modalities and the treatments that they offer clients are very much different than what you would find in traditional spas in the West. You know, we deal with, for example, a Chinetsang massage, which is a Taoist abdominal massage. It releases all the energetic blockages in your abdomen. Which then just realign, you know, your chakras, and your whole body begins to function a lot better. Emotions are purged out, stress is released at deeper levels in regular body work. We have also breathwork practitioners that work with holotropic breathing protocols. So in the, you know, I believe it was the late 1970s, you know, substances like LSD were criminalized, you know, from the government in America. And there was a few doctors that were working with those substances, helping people release, you know, deep traumas by helping them access higher states of consciousness. And when these substances were banned, a lot of these doctors tried to find different ways for patients to access those same states of consciousness, but without the substances. And they discovered that breath has a fantastic effect on the psyche and consciousness. And so holotropic breathwork protocols we work with, those are great ways to maintain stress management during the day, and amongst other things. We have entire programs dedicated to Tantra. And, you know, I've said this time and time again, I think people get the wrong idea of what Tantra is. It is not a sad excuse to have a good time somewhere in California, if we can keep things politically correct. It is truly a philosophy towards life. And more so, I think it's a very important philosophy, especially with what we're doing. We're trying to help people see themselves in a spiritual way, you know, a faith-based way, so that they can kind of reconnect with themselves in an authentic way, you know, rediscover their childlike play. A lot of people in society, they bend under the pressures of society to be that person, or to act this way, or to say that, when in reality they just want to break out of this cage. So we help people do that, and we give them the safe container to do that. And we do it through various different activities, whether it's Qigong, Tai Chi. We have guys from the Shaolin Temple that can do martial arts and bamboo stick training like you see in Hollywood movies. We keep it fun, but at the same time, it's very relevant on the esoteric arts and spirituality-based ethos that we have. So I myself, I'm a Buddhist and a Gnostic, and what we believe in is transpersonal work to be the best version of yourself that you can be for spiritual means, and also on this physical reality we call Earth, if you will. So I just want to share what I've come to know in these regions with other people around the world, because I think the interest in what we're offering is growing around the world right now. You know, especially in America, it's almost become a trend to do ayahuasca. In Europe, I notice things are not so they're not so open to these things quite yet, but I think that it's going to be, you know, it's just a matter of time. You know, here in Asia, there's already some laws that are being passed surrounding, say, medical marijuana that would actually surprise a lot of people. So I think the world is opening up. The world is really opening its mind. And what we've decided to do is hopefully help people understand that wellness in this new world of 2020 especially has been redefined. It is no longer a spa experience. It is truly deeper. You know, we work on levels of integrative health, functional medicine, alternative therapy. In America, more so now, the FDA has just full spectrum approved mushrooms, psilocybin, if you will, LSD, ketamine, and almost now MDMA as breakthrough therapies for PTSD, anxiety, and depression. So, you know, we're making some pretty big headwaves here in the way that we look at medicine and the way that we look at therapy. And for what I've seen, you know, for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years is that it's very much reactionary medicine. You know, people get sick, then they go to the doctor. This is not a sustainable way anymore. And I think people are becoming more and more aware of this and turning towards more preventative ways of health, you know, maintaining health through preventative protocols. And so everything that we offer draws on that preventative ethos. We want to help people maintain their health before they get sick, so they never get sick, you know? Yeah.
This isn't for the faint of heart, though. If you're taking a look at getting, you know, everything done that you may necessarily need done, it's not going to be like walking into your local spa.
No, it's not. And, you know, some of the modalities that we work with aren't always pleasant, you know. I often attest some of the modalities that we work with, and mind you, you know, for example, let's take ayahuasca, for example. If both of us go into a ceremony, we will both, you know, have very different experiences. Me personally, when I sit on ceremony, I don't have the purge like most people do. I don't go into these, you know, these crazy realms. For me, it happens very energetically and subtly, and it kind of integrates into my life moving forward. So I guess you could say I'm pretty lucky to not have to go through that roller coaster every time like most people do. So what I'm saying is, you know, we approach things very on a personalized note. The way that you need to go about your healing and what you want to approach as far as your health concerns or interests, if you will, is very different than how I would approach things. So, you know, we work with holistic doctors, people that have medical backgrounds, and they're the ones doing all the assessments in a confidential space. I'm not even privy to that information. So when we have a new an applicant and they sit down with the doctor, that information sits between them and the doctor. Even I don't know.
So do they just, is it private jets or sorry, private yachts that they visit, or is it estates and you know, explain to me where most of these things take place?
It's private yachts and estates. That's our core focus. The idea with this is that we want to make it as easy for these individuals to access these types of treatments without them having to put together their own travel plans, so to speak. Oftentimes people will go on great pilgrimages to find, you know, these masters or gurus, and, you know, they end up in unfortunate situations where maybe they feel taken for a ride, or maybe they're not getting the full experience that they thought, but they're just let down in some way or deflated. And so we want to remove that ambiguity of that whole experience and just bring whoever they're looking for. As a matter of fact, you know, if they don't know who they're looking for, that's kind of where we come in. We tell you exactly what you might want to consider in order to address your interests. And then we just concierge everybody directly to wherever they feel the most comfortable. So it might be in their super yacht, it might be in their estate, it might be in a rented boutique hotel in the Caribbean that their whole family is part of. Wherever it is, as long as we can get there in a safe and sound manner, we can make it happen, yeah.
And so do some of these techniques and treatments, are they a matter of a one session, or it's over a weekend usually, or just does it vary depending on what you're looking for?
It depends on the individual. Say there's our products are built for 6 clients, and there's a premium if they want more participants. So say you and I are partaking both in a mindfulness retreat. That's kind of the framework, the theme of the retreat, more or less. But within that framework is that very personalized integrative health program. Now mine, because I'm looking to solve childhood traumas related to, for example, I mean, we're just going to be honest here. I mean, it's not my personal experience, but let's say my father kicked me down the stairs when I was younger, and I don't remember that, but I suffered some serious trauma from that. I might need to go lower into my memory banks than you might need to in order for you to release whatever you're looking to. So my health program, my protocol might call for an ayahuasca ceremony. It might call for 3 nights of medicine in a row. Yours might not even call for the medicine. It might call for just some basic therapy work with a spiritually faith-based mentor, as opposed to a traditional psychologist that might not have that spiritual lens to look at things through with you. Yeah. So everything is completely different when you get on the boat. I think, what people appreciate about it is that although everybody's on their own journey on the boat, because I mean, there's so much room on these boats, right? One person could be in the spa while the other person's in the medical bay, while the other person's over here, but everybody comes back together for lunch, breakfast, and dinner. And so it's kind of like, it's an intimate experience, yet providing that personalized space for people to really go through the work that they need to go through in order to achieve those health goals that they're looking to achieve.
Do you organize retreats specifically on boats and then invite people to them, or do you just organize retreats, whether they be in the States or wherever they may be, in accordance to the fact that a client has called and said, we want to have a retreat?
They tell us where they would like the retreat held. So if they say they're going out to the ocean for the next five weeks and they'd like 2 or 3 of those weeks to be taken up with our team, then we can make that happen. If they feel like they want half of the retreat done on the water and then they're docking the vessel and they're going to their estate and they want our team to follow them to the estate, well, we can also make that happen. So it's really whatever the client wants, we can make it happen. Yeah. And even more so than that, if they're taking a 4 or 5 hour flight and they want one of these body workers on board in order to do some Reiki or some energy work or just any type of modality, as long as it's not one of these intensive things, we can get somebody to the tarmac.
You mentioned the word team. So when you go out, how many people maximum is there usually together?
About 5 or 6, and not all of them are on the boat at once. Obviously, we understand the maritime law with capacities and all of this. And so the only person who's on board throughout the whole retreat is actually the medical doctor. Everybody else is tendered on and off the boat as needed, and we'll be staying in shore-based hotels, depending on where the boat is located on that specific day. So there's actually this whole kind of itinerary planning part that we have to do with the captain and with the charter manager as well before anything actually takes place. And so the doctor is actually not meeting the client for the first time when they get on the boat. This is the same doctor that's assigned to the client for the intake assessment. And so they're building the initial rapport with the client. They're on the boat throughout the entire course of the retreat. For example, sometimes people go to a detox retreat and they're going to be waking up sometimes in the middle of the night with some night sweats, maybe some nightmares. I mean, when you're releasing all of these lower vibrations, these negative energies, they get manifested as either crying, shouting, nightmares, like they need to purge out, and sometimes it's expressed very differently. And to a lot of people who have never gone through such programs, they don't know what's happening to them. They think they need to go to the hospital, right? So we need somebody on board to kind of say, hey, look, this is all part of the journey. Just drink some water, go back to sleep. We'll talk about it in the morning. There's really no need to call med-air, Yeah. And then once the retreat's done, we offer each client on board 8 weeks of follow-up support. So once a week for 60 minutes, much like we're doing right now, they can talk with that same medical doctor just to have that kind of ongoing mentorship, that rapport building, making sure that week by week those goals are being met. And those goals are not just random. We also, when the retreat's done, we provide them with take-home material. So it actually dictates, what to eat, how to sleep, listen to this guided meditation track while you sleep. There's some affirmations. So it's really it's a lifestyle change. We are initiating people's sincere lifestyle changes and helping them maintain it for the first 2 to 3 months until it becomes a habit.
So this isn't something for just anybody. I would imagine that if you are going to be doing this, for a period of 5 or 6 days, and you've got a group of people, and the logistics and the nightmare planning that has to be done, you have to be ultra high net worth in order to take your services.
Well, what we do is exclusive. What we do is completely tailored to the individual. We work with highly credible professionals. Most of our professionals have their own clinics, their own practices, either that or they're directors of well-established, long-time running wellness centers around the world. I think we have now about 6 or 7 practitioners that work with some of the royal families in Saudi Arabia, the UK, et cetera, et cetera. So, these are not people that you would just flick on the TV and see. As a matter of fact, I've gone out of my way to avoid as many of the TV celebrities as possible. Many of the people that are in our faculty are people that I've met in my time in Southeast Asia, have had the work done on me personally, and also, naturally cross-reference things with many different sources as per their resumes. But I didn't want to build a company full of just TV celebrities. Anybody can do that. We've hand-selected what I can argue to be some of the most exceptionally talented, exceptionally connected individuals that have literally dedicated their entire lives to esoteric knowledge, esoteric practice, and to this transpersonal, Gnostic style development. And not only that, they're passionate about helping other people, much like I am. I just have a little bit more of a business sense behind me, so I can kind of be that bridge in a way, I guess.
So what's next for Royal Wellness Group? What are your plans next? I mean, obviously you have your team, you're, focused on exactly what you're doing. Is it just to carry on doing exactly what you're doing?
Well, we started off in the super yachting industry. That was kind of our main approach to reach the target market that we're looking to reach. But now we're branching off into some other aspects of the ultra high net worth individual brackets, if you will. So we're now going into Fortune 500 companies. We're branching off into contacting family offices and their personal assistants. We don't want to put all of our attention into one industry because we understand that, super yachting is very much overloaded with different offers all the time. And so we don't want to overwhelm brokers and all these professionals by banging on their door every single week, please sell our retreat for us. We want to, make it on our own and really have the brand resonate with the end client. So I'm building what I hope to end up being a global lifestyle brand for wellness at a very luxury level, much like what Zumba fitness was to the masses. It was like a cult-like following. This is the idea. This is the idea. I think that the world, especially in America, every now and then, there's always kind of like a guru that shows up, if you will. Yes. I mean, there was Bhagwan Osho that came. Then there was the Bikram yoga guy that came. Yeah. And I think now the world is calling for a new guru. And I don't think that it should be a person, because a person can never save another person. You can only save yourself. And so I think Royal Wellness is much or less the faceless guru, more or less a mirror. Simply the mirror that people need to see their own reflection and therefore begin their own transpersonal work, and we'll hold your hand through that process and give you the tools that you need. But we're not here to heal you. We're here to help you heal yourself.
So is that the general idea behind absolutely everything that you do then? Is that you're just helping the person look inwards and literally heal themselves?
That's all this work really is. Even body work, for example, or energy work, from my understanding, the practitioners very much depend on the patient's energy system in order to even do the work itself. So without the patient and their willingness and their belief, none of this would even be possible. So a lot of it really has to come from their own willingness, their own aptitude, their own dedication, their devotion, if you will. Yeah. So we're just there to help them see a blind spot of themselves that they weren't able to see for a very long time. And honestly, most people when they actually see themselves in that blind spot for the first time, everything clicks. It's crazy. So it's like all the work that we do is all the way up until that blind spot, and as soon as they see the blind spot, it's like done, you know. So we're just trying to adjust the mirror a little bit is all we do.
It sounds really interesting. Well, you know what? I know that you're a busy guy, but I really wish you all the best and in creating this sort of worldwide wellness. It just sounds really fascinating and really interesting. And it is really, I think, at a stage, and especially now in 2020, where we're seeing life a little bit differently. I think every single one of us, after having been locked down to a certain degree, it's something that people are really turning towards.
Well, I agree with you. And, there's been the CEO of Burgess. He's mentioned that the world at large, especially in the industry, has a more focused attention towards health and well-being. I think you'd be foolish to think otherwise. As an entire species, I think we've let certain important aspects of life go in pursuit of things, in pursuit of safety, in pursuit of many things. And I think that what's happened with Corona, in spiritual traditions, they call it the dark night of the soul. It's kind of like that moment in everybody's life where you kind of take a really deep look at your own dirt. And there's a lot of shame that comes from that. There's a lot of embarrassment that comes from that. But eventually you kind of rise from all of it like a phoenix. I think this is kind of what the earth has collectively gone through. And it would be a shame to see most people go back to their old tendencies, their old habits, their old ways. So I guess, to put it short, is that for those that are not looking to go back to their old tendencies and ways, but yet lack the guidance on how to really change things because their wife is expecting them to still be that hard person, their business partners are still expecting them to be that conniving person, or whatever it is. If they're looking for the guidance to change all of that, and to not only have the guidance, but also have kind of like a safe container where they can slowly start to come out of the cage a little bit, then we're here to help those people, truly. Yeah. And for the people
it sounds amazing.
No,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I said, and for the people who may not be ready for that, not saying they may never be ready, but it's just not their time. And, we'll be around if and when they're ready as well. Yeah.
Well, you know what? It does sound great. And if anybody is interested, we're going to make sure to list the website. And do you have different social media accounts as well?
Yeah, both Facebook and Instagram is just Super Yacht Wellness. Those are the handles, if you will.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Well, we'll make sure that we tag everything underneath the interview. So if anybody is interested in finding out a little bit more, and especially explore the website, I would encourage anybody to explore the website, because there is quite a bit of information, and it's a really nice website as well. I must say, it's very calming.
That's the point. As soon as you see our brand, you start to emote the same feelings as if you had just finished a retreat with us. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Maybe one day I'll become an ultra high net worth individual and avail myself of your services. Thank you again.
Cool. Sounds good. Appreciate it.
You have been listening to Jaime Iredale. He is the Royal Wellness Group, the owner actually of the Royal Wellness Group. If you're interested in anything, as I said, we'll list all the details below this interview. You've been watching another edition of Yacht Crew Vlogs right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I have been your host. Please join us again for another episode.